to the Inside Scoop Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
Hello and welcome to the Emerald Planet as we come to you from Washington, D.C. in the United States as we're looking around the globe in 144 different nations, looking for those 1,000 best practices that are making a difference. It's called the best of the best. So we're looking for all the many ideas, the concepts, and the people that are actual leaders in this whole realm. And we have someone who's working on this. I have someone sitting beside me that's really looking at the energy side of this. Scott Ringland, he's the CEO of Energy Alliance Group of Michigan, is here with us. And then we have Richard M. Baum, who is the director of Parjana Green out of Detroit, Michigan. He's coming in by Skype. Rich, welcome to the Emerald Planet.
Hello. Hi, Dr. Sam.
It's good to see you here. I hope all is going well out in Michigan, and thank you for joining us. And tell us a little bit about what is Parjana Green?
Well, Parjana Green is a partnership with Parjana Distribution. And what we focus on are grants, working on environmental projects that might involve humanitarian issues or water quality issues. And we're looking for research. Other things we do involve developing water saving programs, energy saving programs with primarily Parjana's technology. And then also just educating people about the major water issues that are all around us.
Now, looking at Detroit, of course, you're in what you would say is the water-rich area with the Great Lakes right there. But yet, at the same time, when I was out there and I had 4 days visiting with you and your colleagues at Parjana and many other people within Detroit, there's a real concern about that because not of drought within your immediate area, but in other areas of the United States, and the pressure to share some of that precious resource that you have through the Great Lakes. So when you're talking with the companies in Detroit, how do you share with them about the importance of water and also the urgency of managing the best of the best as far as water resources are concerned?
Well, you know, we are sitting on 20% of the world's fresh water here in the Great Lakes, so it's a tremendous responsibility that we have. And of course, we're surrounded by some large corporations like Ford Motor Company, GM, Daimler Chrysler. So we have some really big players in the world, in world industry that use a lot of water, big water users. It's really tough here in Detroit to get people as concerned about water quantity. In other words, the scarcity they're experiencing in California. We are protected by the Great Lakes Pact, which protects Great Lakes and the rights to those waters from surrounding states. But as the issues get more and more difficult in years to come for Texas and California and across the South and Southwest, they're going to be looking to our water. And what we'd like to do at Parjana Green and Parjana Distribution, at least with our technology, is show people how they can manage and capture their own water. And we'd like to export our technology, and we are in California right now working on those issues, trying to show that if you can just infiltrate water into the ground, that you can actually start to solve your own problems and start to capture the water that does rain. So much of it's lost to evaporation, and so much of it's lost to contaminated runoff that ends up, perhaps in salt water on the West Coast, for example.
Well, let me follow on, and then we're going to have Scott ask a question. But looking at this contamination, Detroit, in American terms, is a very old city. It's an industrialized city, so you have huge impervious surfaces, and I know that's starting to change as they're going in and taking out some of the older neighborhoods, etc. But how do you look at the water quality aspects of this and try to employ your technologies and a number of other technologies as well to make sure that you're actually enhancing or increasing the quality of the water as well as the quantity of the water?
Well, that's a great question, and I will tell you that we have just had a tremendous amount of rain here within the last 24 hours. So as we speak, I mean, areas have been receiving I've heard to as high as 4 inches of water. And what happens in Detroit, like so many of these older cities in the Midwest and the Northeast, is that these combined stormwater and sewer pipes can't handle the volume. The treatment facilities can't handle it, so they just dump the raw sewage into the river, or very minorly treated sewage into the river or the creek, or in your neck of the woods, the Chesapeake Bay. And that's a big, big problem. And with Parjana and other green technologies like green roofs, rain gardens, whatever it is, if you can handle the water on location, then you are taking the stress off of the system. Meaning if you can infiltrate water in the green spaces you have, or capture the water for use later, that everything matters. Every gallon you keep away from the pipe is, when you have a storm like this, is a gallon of sewage that doesn't go into the river.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about this in just a little bit, Rich, as far as the quality and how this really relates to this whole greening of Detroit as a new city in many ways, very innovative. But Scott, why don't you go ahead and ask the next question?
Yeah, Rich, good to see you. It's been a long time since we've spoken.
And he must come to Washington, D.C. in order to see you, Rich.
Yeah, good to see you again. Yeah, this is great. What do you got for me, Scott?
Well, wondering what is the blue-green economy in Detroit that you guys are talking about?
Well, I want to give credit to John Austin and MEC, which is an organization. There's the Michigan Blue Economy org, and in the Great Lakes, we are keenly aware of the value of our water. Like I said, 20% of the world's fresh water, but we have lakes. It's a lifestyle. It's not just supply of water and agriculture. We have the second most diverse agriculture in the state of Michigan, across the country. So people don't realize that. Everything we do is connected to water. And it's a tremendous advantage for the state of Michigan to be set right in the middle of it. But we have never really paid attention to it the way we should. Most large industry uses 1 in 5 jobs, they say, are related to water here in Michigan. There are fresh water supply. That's a lot of jobs. And looking ahead, where you have water stress in many parts of the country, water issues across the world, the availability of fresh water makes Michigan a great place. And the Michigan Blue Economy is about not just industry, but it's about research, it's about new technologies, it's about all the nonprofits, all the universities we have that are working together or separately on different projects. Companies like ours that with bringing new technologies to bear that are going to create jobs, but also solve problems not only here in Michigan, but that we can transport nationally and across the world. And that is what Parjana Green and Parjana are doing.
Yeah,
so maybe that answers the question.
Yeah, that's incredible. One of the differences, and this really brings us back into this new greening of Detroit as an old industrial city that's renewing itself, the difference between managing the stormwater in urban areas versus the rural areas, and how does that actually impact the Great Lakes where you're located?
Well, like so many areas, you get away from the city, not even that far, and you start to get into agriculture. And this is true, like I said, in your part of the world and all over the country. And last year, they literally shut off the water in Toledo, which is just down the river, right, from Detroit. So Toledo's right there. And Western Lake Erie turned into what essentially looks like green pea soup. And the water got so toxic, these toxic algal blooms, that they had to shut off the water. The major problem is the agricultural runoff. Not all the sewage we dump in from Detroit, it's the agricultural runoff. And so farmers are now becoming aware of this, and the data is in, and the reports and the research identifying the problem. Well, now we can use our technology, again, to infiltrate water on the farm, not let the drain tile just overflow into the creek. And that is the key issue. It's very similar to urban runoff in that agricultural land, although it's natural and growing things, it is developed. And we're using nutrients like nitrates and phosphates and phosphorus. So it's very important to infiltrate water where it lands, whether it's in an urban environment or whether it's in an agricultural environment.
Now, one of the things that the successive mayors in Detroit have looked at is actually urban agriculture. And they're looking at huge tracts of land, and because you have one of the largest land masses as a urban area in the United States, and so there's a real opportunity for that. But looking at the emergence of this urban agriculture, what do you see as far as the long-term impact on not only just the lifestyle and the use of the water, but also the management of the water within Detroit itself as a very urban area?
Well, the emergence of urban agriculture in Detroit is a very big story that isn't talked about enough yet. Even Detroit Public Schools will be buying a lot of food that's grown right in Detroit, and there's some new developments there that are very exciting. But also what happens in agricultural runoff in rural areas is no different than the issues you're going to have right on these farms. And they are not prepared to deal with that yet. I mean, we're having a hard enough time dealing with the normal runoff. Now you add agriculture to that. Again, you got to find ways to infiltrate and manage that water on site. Because if we start overloading the system even more with agricultural runoff in the urban setting, you're going to have issues. And I think that those in charge and running Detroit, the mayor's office, and those looking at this issue have really got to pay attention and really have to put the right rules and regulations in place to make sure that urban agriculture is all positive and isn't contaminating and adding to the contamination issues we already have.
Okay, we got two quick questions and we got to do it quick. Scott?
So, Rich, I have one of these in my office, but tell me a little bit about your Saving a Bucket campaign.
Well, yeah, thank you so much. I mean, Parjana Green is so, the inspiration that Parjana, the technology Parjana has.
Got to be quick.
What?
Got to be quick.
All right, well, think about our own water usage. That's the key, whether you're in a company or as an individual. How many buckets of water you use a day? And try in your life as an individual or as a corporation or organization to put back as many buckets as you use. And that's really the basic principle. And I think if we're all considering our usage, we got to think about where it goes after we use it and putting as much back into the ground so the nature can filter it and make it drinkable and usable again. And it's understanding the process and understanding your usage and offsetting your usage.
Parjana Green over the next 5-10 years, where are you going to be?
Well, the top of the mountain for Parjana Green is developing a worldwide water offsetting program using Parjana technology and other technologies so that we can replenish fresh water supply.
Fantastic. You answered it. Richard M. Baum is the director of Parjana Green, and sitting right beside me, Scott Ringland. And thank you for being with us as we're looking at these critical issues, looking at Detroit as the example as we create the Emerald Planet.